welcome to another RSR. Tonight, we are predicting the 2024 Telus Canadian Championship from round 1 to the final. And you ask, how does that work? Because they have not drawn the semifinals or final, or the way that runs. I did a mini draw. I think we know who the final 4 teams will be. I think it's pretty sort of obvious. So, I did a mini draw of how my predictions look, and then there you go. And I went from there. So, again, I'll re-predict when we get to the semifinals. Closer to the semifinals, I think. That would make a lot of sense. But, as it is, I'll predict round 1 and the quarterfinals. Those are definitely timely. Then we will, I guess, re-predict the semifinals and finals once we get there. But there are projected predictions deeper into the tournament. But we will start with round 1. We will start with round 1. We got Calgary FC of the Canadian Premier League versus Vancouver FC of the Canadian Premier League. Round 1, match 1. In order of the bracket is how we're going on this. Calgary versus Vancouver FC. Vancouver FC are looking better this year. They are looking better. They've built their team a bit, but Calgary is still the second best team, best regular season team in the CPL right now. They still have their same squad. They still have Tommy Wheeldon Jr. For me, I think Calgary's going to get it done. I don't see why they wouldn't get it done. They're hosting. They are still the better side than Vancouver. Even though Vancouver's looked a lot better recently, I think Calgary's going to get it done. Of course, let's remember the first round ties are single leg ties. The quarterfinals, of course, are two-legged ties. The semifinals are two-legged ties. The finals are one-legged tie. So it is a 90-minute tie. Not sure if extra time or straight to penalties, but has been straight to penalties, so I guess it would be the same. But for me, I think Calgary's the better team. They have too much quality. They're playing at home. They're going to get it done. Calgary wins and goes on to play Vancouver Whitecaps. So, who have a bye to the quarterfinals. Round 1, 2. Atletico Ottawa of the CPL versus Valor FC of the CPL. Valor's trash. Atletico Ottawa won the offseason. And they do have some really good players, and they're looking good right now. So for me, Ottawa hosting Valor, winning the offseason, looking not like disappointments, makes me feel that Ottawa will beat Valor. Valor has been not great over the past couple of years, and Ottawa, they don't look like they've disappointed on their offseason signings. I got Atletico Ottawa moving through to the quarterfinals against Pacific. Oh, well, that just gave away my 3. Well, that just gave away my 3. Whatever, though. Well, it's a pretty obvious tie anyway. Round 1, 3. Pacific FC of the CPL versus TSS Rovers of League 1 British Columbia. The champions, not the champions of League 1 British Columbia, the champions of 2022. Victoria Highlanders got pulled out. Of course, Vancouver Whitecaps Academy can't play, who are the real champions of the L1 BC. So TSS Rovers gets in as former champions. Pacific got some good players. They're hosting against a team who had no expectation of being in this tournament this year, who just got in there, and they didn't do well last year. I mean, against Pacific, they won't. So for me, yeah, Pacific wins. So even though it was obvious, it was a pretty obvious pick. But again, quarterfinal 2, Atletico Ottawa versus Pacific FC. I will not. Well, no, I can actually. Round 1, 4. Forge FC of the CPL versus York United FC of the CPL. It's a one-legged tie. They already played each other. Forge are still the champions of the CPL Cup, the North Star Cup. York already got their butts whipped today. I think it's going to go again. Forge does it again. They win. Simple as. We already seen it. Forge versus Montreal in quarterfinal 3. Now, round 1, number 5. Halifax Wanderers FC of the CPL versus CS Saint Laurent of the Ligue 1 Quebec. The PLSQ, of course. Halifax Wanderers playing at home against CS Saint Laurent. For me, this one really matters to me because you'll see in a short bit. But I think Halifax gets it done. They haven't been great. They haven't had some good results in the CPL, but they still have a lot of names on their roster that you're like, you know what? They should beat a League One Canada team. They still have Rumpersad. They have Telfer. They have Aiden Daniels. They've got a team where you think on paper should still beat a League One Ontario team. Or a League One Quebec team, a League One Canada team. But you get my point. I'm still used to calling it the PLSQ. But again, Halifax gets the win. They'll play the winner of round 1-6, which is the final first round tie. Toronto FC of the MLS, the highest ranked team in the round 1 because they lost their first game, did not make the final. They have to play round 1. For Simcoe County Rovers of League One Ontario, so they got a really easy draw. I'll be live for that match on Wednesday. I will review it, of course. For me, Toronto's gotten better. They beat a team they were supposed to on the weekend. They've got 4 wins already this year after 9 matches instead of 4 in 37 because you got to add the 2 Leagues Cup matches and the Can Champ match. They are better this year than they were last year, by far. And they should beat a team like Simcoe. They should. They're playing at home. Prince Owusu's on fire. I'm sure he'll play. DeAndre Kerr should probably score on them too if he has to start. Oso, I'm thinking here. Lorea's not playing. Luca Gavron could start. I could see that happening. Luca Gavron, Oso, Jaquil. Yeah, they could still start Owusu if they wanted. But again, for me, Toronto should get the win. It's pretty simple. I think they should get the win. They should win 4-0, 5-0. Get it done. They'll probably give up 5-1. But they should win by romp and get to the quarterfinals. Toronto wins. Which means quarterfinal 4 is Halifax Wanderers versus Toronto FC. Now, in the quarterfinals, again, it's a 2-legged tie. The second leg is decided by the Canadian Championship ranking. So the host of the second round, or the second leg of the round, is the better ranked team. The lower ranked team hosts leg 1. So, which means quarterfinal 1, Calgary FC will host leg 1 over the Vancouver Whitecaps. Vancouver Whitecaps have the return leg at home. Calgary FC of the CPL versus Vancouver Whitecaps of MLS in quarterfinal 1. For me, Vancouver Whitecaps have been playing very well this year. They have. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've played so well this year. They have got one of their best starts of the season in franchise history. Calgary's a good side. They've beat Vancouver before, but I don't see over 2 legs that happening again. I think Lightning can't strike twice. Vancouver's playing very well. Fafa Picault is hot right now. I think Vancouver Whitecaps will get it done. It may be a draw at Spruce Meadows, but I think at BC Place it will end up being a win. Vancouver Whitecaps to the semifinals in that hat for the semifinal draw and final draw. Quarterfinal 2. Atletico Ottawa of the CPL versus Pacific FC of the CPL. Pacific FC is the higher ranked team. So Atletico Ottawa would host the first leg. Pacific is at their stadium Starlight for the second leg. I still think Ottawa has the better team right now. They still have the better team. They have the bigger team. They have a team who has more vision. Pacific, on the other hand, they're not as good as they were a couple of years ago. James Merriman's still a good coach. They still have some of those names. But against Ottawa, I think Ottawa is just the better team in this situation. They'll do enough at TD Place to get the win. They'll probably draw at Starlight Stadium because it is a cross-country trek. But I think Ottawa gets it done. Ottawa to the semifinals. The lowest ranked team, very likely, in the semifinals. Quarterfinal 3. Forge FC of the CPL versus CF Montreal MLS. Forge hosts the first leg at Tim Hortons Field. Second leg at Stade Saputo. I would go the other way if Montreal wasn't playing very well right now. They are playing very well this season under Laurent Courtois, a very similar system to Wilfried Nancy. They got some really good players. Kokoro, they got Joseph Martinez. They're getting strikers left and right. They still have Sam Piet. They still got Jonathan Sawa. It's a very good team, Montreal. And Forge, they got the players, they got the coach, but even if they win at home, the second leg is still going to be a big, big mountain to climb. I don't see Forge winning over 2 legs. Unless Montreal has an off night at Tim Hortons Field and Forge wins 3-0 and they get an away goal, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I think Montreal doesn't have a night off. They do good enough at Tim Hortons Field to finish it off at Stade Saputo. Montreal beats Forge again. They go to the semifinals. They're in the hat. Quarterfinal 4, Halifax Wanderers FC of the CPL versus Toronto FC of MLS. Wanderers grounds hosting the first leg. BMO Field hosting the second leg. Toronto, of course, the third-ranked team in that Canadian Championship ranking. Halifax way lower. Halifax versus Toronto is a 2022 rematch of the quarterfinals. They beat Halifax back then. I was worried, but they got it done. So, Toronto plays Halifax again. They go back to Wanderers grounds under John Herdman. I still think, with how bad Halifax is against CPL sides, I don't think they could compete against Toronto. I think it may be a draw at Wanderers grounds, best case scenario, but again, I think they'll lose at BMO. I think Toronto wins both legs, to be totally honest, though. But I do believe that if Halifax were able to get a draw at Wanderers grounds, it wouldn't shock me. But I think Toronto gets it done. They win the tie. Toronto moves on to the semifinals. And there you go there. Semifinal and final predictions. So my draw last night when I was writing down my predictions, I did a draw. I put the 4 semifinal teams in the hat. I drew them out. And semifinal 1 ended up being Vancouver Whitecaps FC of the MLS versus Toronto FC. Toronto hosts the first leg. Vancouver hosts the second leg, the way the draw went. Toronto came out of the hat first. They host the first leg. Second leg goes to Vancouver. But again, these ties will be played in August, September. So for me, no, this is July, August, the semifinals. The finals is in September. But again, I think Toronto will be much better than they are now in July or August, depending on where they are in Leagues Cup. I think Vancouver will cool down a bit. I don't think this is sustainable. I think they'll meet more in the middle. I don't think Toronto's going to get ran like they did at BC Place a couple of weeks ago. I think Toronto know what to expect. They won't play like that again. I think they'll play much better against Vancouver. I think Toronto will get a win at home in the first leg. I think they do enough at BC Place to win the tie. It's not going to be pretty, but I think they get it done. Toronto FC figures it out, goes to the final. Semifinal 2, CF Montreal versus Atletico Ottawa. The first leg at Atletico Ottawa TD Place. CF Montreal hosting the second leg at Stade Saputo. I think Montreal wins overall. I think they win both legs. I don't think Ottawa's good enough to fight them. I really don't. I mean, yes, Ottawa made a lot of good signings. They got a good manager. But it's just, I need to see more. This thought might change. But I think Montreal is probably going to be the most stable MLS team of the 3 going into the semifinals when they're played. I think Toronto's going to be on the up. I think Vancouver's going to taper off a little bit. I think Montreal's going to stay where they are, but where they are is good enough to beat Ottawa. I think Montreal wins, which means the final is Toronto FC of the MLS facing CF Montreal, hosting in Toronto. I think, to be honest, the way Toronto's playing right now, I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win the final. I would rather face Montreal in a final at home than play Vancouver in the final, if I'm being completely honest. I'd rather have a 2-leg buffer against Vancouver. I think they could get it done over 2 legs against Vancouver. A 1-legged tie, whether it's at home or on the road, I really don't like that situation. But against Montreal, with how I think Toronto will be in the summer, in September, at home, Even on the road, I like our chances, but especially at home, I like our chances against Montreal. I think Toronto FC beats Montreal in the final of the Canadian Championship to get their 9th Canadian Championship trophy and get back to the Champions Cup. In theory, if they don't get in through Leagues Cup or the playoffs, this would get them in there. Who knows? We might already be in, which that would make me feel a lot better if we lost, if we were already in. But Toronto FC, I think they get it done. I think by September, they will be a lot more well-played, well-oiled. I think Montreal, again, they're going to play well, but I don't think they're going to be... They're not better than Toronto right now. Toronto is better ranked than Montreal right now. So, again, I think Toronto right now is better than Montreal. If they can get past Vancouver, they got this, I think. Toronto, they win. They will be your Canadian champions this year. Of course, we'll have to reconvene talking about semifinals and finals getting back in July. But I think that is a very possible situation anyway. With that being said, would it be funny if I predicted it completely? But with that being said, if you like this video, like it, share, subscribe. You know what it is. Tell your friends. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification once subscribed. Send some chats on the live streams. Comment on this video. Put us a playlist. Share with friends and family. All that great stuff. I will see you tomorrow for a live watch-along and review of Toronto Maple Leafs at Boston Bruins Game 2. It is the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's hope the Leafs bounce back, but I'm not sure about it. With that being said, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Ryan and I'm out. Peace. You love it.